Good morning, peace be upon you all. Let me introduce myself. My name is Dona Sartika. I would like to say thank you for coming to my presentation. Here I will explain about developing literature-based instructional material. Okay, just get to the material. Part A discusses about definition of teaching material. Teaching materials are the resources that a teacher uses to deliver instruction. Tomlinson, 1998, views that materials is used to refer to anything which is used by the teachers or the learners to facilitate the learning of a language. Materials could obviously be cassettes, videos, CD-ROM, dictionaries, grammar books, readers, workbook, or photocopied exercise. Viewed from the point of view of the content of the material, teaching materials can be classified into 6 types such as the following. The first is fact. Fact is material whose content consists of a number of facts or information whose truth cannot be doubted to be disputed. Or it's easy to see, say the name, quantity, and part. Second, concepts. Concepts are materials in the field of study whose content is in the form of ideas, opinions, theories, or postulates, definitions, identification, classification, and special features. Third, principle. Principles are practical demands for the implementation of certain actions such as learning and teaching. Material in the field of study of principles is material that provides the basis for the realization of an expected development so that every action carried out can be well controlled. Fourth, skills. Skills consist of certain skills that must be mastered, especially those that concern motor skills such as typing skills, arranging space, heading balls, and sprinting. Fifth, problem solving. Problem solving is a field of study material that contains elements of problem solving. For example, in a science lesson, a teacher gives a group assignment to his students to make inferences knowing how to use ways. 6. Process. Process is a material that describes the process of occurrence of something such as the process of discoloration, the process of occurrence of rain, the process of settling, or the process of evaporation. And then attitudes or values. Values of togetherness, the value of honesty, the value of affection, and please help, passion and interest in learning, the spirit of work, and willing to accept the opinions of others. Part B, teaching literature. First, 3 models for teaching literature. The reasons for teaching literature necessarily transcend the particular circumstances, places, and contexts in which literature is taught. 3 main reasons for the teaching of literature have been consistently advanced. It embraces a particular set of learning objectives for the student of literature. These are cultural model, language model, and personal growth methods. Study of literature involves reading literature within an academic, institutionalized setting for purposes of obtaining qualification in literary studies. Students should show an ability to use critical concepts and literary convention in talking and writing about literature. Fosters an understanding of literature as a body of text and a view of literary text as belonging to a background of specific historical, social, and ideological context. Literature as a resource. suggests a less academic, though no less serious approach to the reading of literature. Literature is considered as a legitimate and valuable resource for language teaching. Third, knowledge about literature versus knowledge of literature. Knowledge about literature means accumulating facts about literary context, dates, titles of texts, names of conversations, and literary forms. Knowledge of literature. Knowledge of literature is better expressed in terms of pleasure and enjoyment rather than in terms of the accumulation of facts. Knowledge of literature is more likely to be conveyed by activity-based, student-centered approaches which aim to lead to a high level of personal response and involvement. Fourth, literature and how it should be taught. Competencies and skills that students should learn when literature is taught as a craft rather than as a body of isolated information. We want students to learn the following competencies and skills: how to recognize subtle and complex differences in language use, how to read figurative language and distinguish between literal and metaphorical meaning, how to seek out further knowledge about the literary work, its author, its content, or its interpretation, how to detect the cultural assumptions underlying writing from different time or society, and the process to become aware of one's own cultural assumptions, how to relate apparently disparate words to one another and to synthesize ideas that connect them into a tradition or into a literary period, how to use literary models as cultural references either to communicate it with others or to clarify one's own ideas, how to think creatively about problems by using literature as a broadening of one's own experience and practical knowledge, how to read closely with attention to detailed use of diction, syntax, metaphor, and style, not only in high literary works, but in decoding the strength of language everyone in modern society is exposed to, how to create literary texts of one's own, whether imaginative or critical, how to think creatively within and beyond literary studies, making some connections between the literary work and one's own life, how to work and learn with others, taking literature as a focus for discussion and analysis, how to defend a critical judgment against the informed opinions of others. Part C. Using literature for English language teaching. The inclusion of literature in the field of ELT has multidimensional use in teaching all of the language skills. Turker, F. 1991, argued that literature offers various opportunities to develop the four English language skills. Tracker, H. and D. proposes 5 genres of literature that can be exploited in the ELT context, which are poetry, prose, drama, nonfiction, and media. Further explanations regarding these literary genres are provided below. A. Drama. Drama can be defined as a wide range of text written to be performed orally in front of audiences, which could be presented in various forms such as role-playing, storytelling, dialects, and so on. B. Poetry. Any text written to be performed by declamation or recitation with some sort of rhythm and style can be called poetry. The application of poetry in ELT practices has gained a huge attention for its content-rich reading material, creative language use, potential to teach vocabulary in context, pronunciations, rhythm, and stress. C. Prose. Prose refers to any kind of literary text having characters drawing a particular plot or storyline written in paragraphs, with complete sentences. G. Nonfiction. Nonfiction may be defined as any text written with creativity that serves not only stories or information, but also education on particular issues, phenomena, or ideas. E. Media. Media is considered the state-of-the-art literature type. It refers to any work produced by relying on technological advancement and emerged known as a written text. Part D. The incorporation of literature in English language teaching. The phrase incorporation of literature in ELT refers to the process of bringing literature into English classrooms and exploiting it as an integral resource in English teaching purposes. One way to integrate literature in English classroom is through designing literature-based ELT material. Arafah B. 2019. Today, material development should actively respond to the shifting trend of language teaching methodology, the advancement of school curricula, the innovation in education policy, and the demand of society for communicative competence. Part A. Developing a literature-based instructional material. Developing a literature-based instructional material for essay writing course. Literature as authentic materials offers many benefits for learners' communicative competence as it has resources for language learning. Takashi, 2015. Within Indonesian context, literature has been used for teaching writing or integrated into other courses in university level. For example, a study conducted by Setyawati and Sukmawan, 2018, who integrate the teaching of prose and essay writing. The result of the study shows that the integration of prose and essay and vice versa benefits the students' ability to write an essay as well as their critical thinking skills. The use of literature for teaching writing gives benefits for the students not only in terms of their writing skills but also in terms of sharpening their critical thinking ability. 2. Developing literature-based teaching materials for speaking subjects. Research for find out the learning needs of the 10th grade student as SMK, SMAK Makassar, and to develop local folktale-based English material for speaking skills of the 10th grade student at SMK, SMAK Makassar. Students' learning needs are essential to be identified in developing learning materials. It is used in designing and developing materials in the research and development approach. These needs were collected by distributing questionnaires to the students, interviewing the English teacher, and also interviewing 7 students and focus group discussion to find out deeper data about students' needs. The questionnaire contains some statements which are designed in like scale. It aimed to find out students' learning needs based on 3 learning needs categories according to Nation and McAllister 2010. They are necessities, likes, and wants. Developing a literature-based instructional material for listening course. Listening possesses essential role in the development of language proficiency. Cahyono 1997. EFL textbooks recently used in the listening classes have been applying top-down listening process. It was shown from the teaching experience of the teachers, researchers, and listening class of the English department at IAIN Palangkaraya. The students have been asked to particular listening skills, for example, listening for keys, listening for main idea, not taking and listening and summary as what is explained in those textbooks. There were good reasons for this, given that students need to be able to listen effectively even when faced with unfamiliar vocabulary or structures. However, if the students understand very few words from the incoming signal, even knowledge about the context may not be sufficient for them to understand the message, and the students can easily get blank in meaning. This situation somehow may lead students to a frustration state and eventually influence their motivation to improve listening skills. Recent literature on the teaching of listening indicates the importance of raising students' awareness of the process listening. The process of listening is in line with the listening sequences pitch at different levels. Harmer, 2007. Fourth, developing a literature-based reading program in the third grade. Success of the program. The researcher felt the literature-based program was a success in her classroom for various reasons. First, a new attitude and zeal for teaching reading was discovered. Although she loves to read personally, the researcher did not enjoy teaching the subject of reading. Being more enthusiastic herself and being willing to defect from traditional reading groups caused the enthusiasm to transfer to the third grade students. Another reason for the success came from the students themselves. A self-confidence was developed in many, as was a love for books and new enthusiasm for reading. Students were exposed to a large variety of experiences which allowed them to develop some taste in literature, discover their own hidden talents, and learn problem-solving skills as well. This was seen by the researcher through observation and conferencing.
Got a tight grip on